Let's take a look at calculations and assignments in Java. Once you have variables, it's very convenient to use them to write formulas to calculate things. For example, suppose I need the area of a room, right? Square footage of a room. Suppose I'm buying carpet or something like that. I'd need to know the length of the room and the width of the room. And now I can write a statement that calculates the product of those two, the length times the width, and assigns it to another variable. Okay, so this is an assignment statement. Right? This is an assignment statement. Very important kind of statement in programming that you'll use very, very much. So the key thing to bear in mind about the assignment statement is that the flow is from right to left. All right, so when a statement like this is executed, all right, the right-hand side executes first. All right, so the runtime system is going to look up the value of length. It's going to look up the value of width, multiply those two things together, and then assign the result to the left-hand side, which will frequently be a new variable, but it doesn't have to be. It can be an existing variable. So, and we can print the result, right? Something like this. Let's take a look at that. Oops. I have a typo on line 8. All right, remember, you will see these kinds of messages very often. You're going to get used to them. All right, so when something doesn't compile, all right, you'll see the file name and the line number where the error was. All right, then the system will print the line that had the error, right, and you'll get a caret at the beginning of the symbol that caused the error. Right, so notice caret is actually pointing at the period here, but it's at the beginning of the unrecognized symbol. Right, so it's saying, right, I cannot find the symbol. The symbol it cannot find is the method, print line of a string, right? Or println. Right? That's why it can't find it, because it's misspelled. Right? So come back to that and fix the mistake. Try it again. Right? And once it compiles without errors, you can execute it. And there it is. Sure, 15 times 20 is 300. There are some built-in functions in Java that you can use in certain situations. Suppose you want to find the hypotenuse of a triangle. Suppose we have something like this. We have, right, assume these are straight lines. And we have this is some distance b, and we want to know c. Okay, well, there's a formula for that. It's Pythagorean theorem. C squared is a squared plus b squared. All right, well, if that's the case, then C, oops, didn't want to get rid of all that. C is the square root of that. Okay, well, you obviously can't type a square root symbol like that. Right, so there's a built-in function for it. It's called square root. So suppose I need to know the diagonal, right, of my room. For some reason, I can change a variable that I have already to anything I like. And the function is math.sqrt. And then in parentheses, whatever it is you're trying to find the square root of. We want length squared plus width squared. So that would be length times length plus width times width. And the result excuse my typing. And there we go. Now it's by default, quite a few decimal places are going to be shown here. We'll see in a little later how to control the number of decimal places in your output. All right, suppose now, just to give some more examples, we want to calculate my height in inches. All right, so I'll need two variables. I'll use integers for these because I'm going to use feet and inches. I'll use my own height. I am 5 foot in inches. I'm 5'9". All right, so my height in feet is 5 feet. Rest of the height in inches is 9 inches. And I want to know what my total height in inches is. So I'll make a variable, inches. And you don't have to calculate and declare in the same statement as I did here and here. You can set up the variable and then calculate it in a separate statement. So I want height in inches. And what is that? Well, that's just the height in feet times 12 plus the rest of the height in inches. And output the result. And take a look. "69 inches. Sure. 5 feet is 60 inches plus 9, another 9 inches. Now, you have to be kind of careful when you're choosing what type your variable is going to be, right? In these cases, right, I've set up the variables as doubles, even though there was no fractional portion, there could be, right? A room isn't always an even number of feet. Maybe it's 20.5, right? And 15 and a quarter. So if your value might have fractional portions, right, you have to allow for that. Right? height in feet, height in inches. I knew those were going to be just whole numbers, so I made them ints. And my height in inches, right, is just a whole number. Sometimes you're going to have values that start off in one type, and in the course of the calculations, you have to switch to another type. This is very common for averages, right? Let's set up a few variables. I'm going to find the average of three numbers. Int. I'm going to declare all three numbers in one statement, and then give them values. Let's say 14, num2 is 17, num3 is, let's say 15. All right, so an average will always have a potentially a fractional portion. So you want to allow for that. I make that double. Even though the numbers I'm averaging up are integers, the average is going to be a double. Right? And that would be the sum divided by the number of values. Right, now this is not quite correct, right? Because precedence rules still apply, the same as they do in algebra. Right? The order of operations here is the multiplication is going to happen first, right? Then these two additions will happen in this order. So the first thing that happens is we're going to divide only num3 by 3. And then we're going to add the other two numbers. Well, that's not right. I have to add all three of these before I divide. So what I need here are parentheses, right, to make sure things happen. Now, what's inside the parentheses will happen. This will be first, this will be second, and this will happen third, which is the order of operations that we want. And then we can see the output. Let's take a look at that. And average is 15.0. 0.0. Well, that's not right. I figured this out on a calculator. The answer should be 15.3. So is the computer making a mistake? Not exactly. What's happening here is I'm dividing by an integer. Okay, so even though I said I wanted a floating point result, this is actually still calculating an integer value. Num is an integer, num2 is an integer, num3 is an integer, and 3 just by itself is an integer. So the runtime system is going to look at all this and say, these are all integers. You must want an integer result here. So it's going to perform integer arithmetic, which in division will throw away the remainder. So if I want floating point division to happen so that I can retain the fractional portion, I have to make sure that either the numerator or the denominator of the division is a floating point value. Let's take a look at that. Okay, well that's better. That's what we expect. The average of these three numbers is not 15 exactly, it's 15.3.